Talk Real Estate with Sharon McNamara, sponsored by Boston Connect Real Estate Services.
Hi, I'm Sharon McNamara, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Let me share a little bit about my background before we get started. I am the broker-owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, a boutique real estate firm that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing consultants who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my real estate team member, Mary Baker, and I, along with the director of Boston Connect Real Estate, Melissa Wallace, provide you with our unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We like to mix it up sometimes, so not only will you hear our perspective on real estate topics, but you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of some of our real estate agents at Boston Connect Real Estate and the preferred professionals that we trust. Be part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We'd love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team or one of the dedicated agents at Boston Connect Real Estate to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with us at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
Talk real estate.
And we're back. Hello to all my South Shore neighbors. We're back. Yeah, we're back from last Tuesday. And we have the same guest. We're at the same place. I am Sharon McNamara. I am the broker owner. Well, you just heard the intro, so that didn't change much since that played. And I am here with Mary Baker. I'm all tied up in my wires. We have Melissa Wallace, who's getting us all prepared on all of our social media feeds. So you can find us on Facebook Live. We're on McNamara Broker Team, right? Yep. Is where you can find us if you want to see what we look like and what our guests look like. One of them in particular looks so thrilled about being here. A little bribery had to go into it. And, I think that, she loves us.
A little dynamic. We'll just add a little spice to it. Denise, that's what you're here for.
Denise, it's best that you're here because we always say, oh, Denise would know that. Denise would know that. When Emmanuel doesn't know the answers, that's what we say.
You're the go-to. It's fine.
Yes. So to all of our WATD listeners, we have a continuation on from our show last week. It was such a great show. We had a lot of callers. We had people texting me with questions. We had people on Facebook asking questions. We had people call in the studio with questions. And our topic was in regard to basically title. Yeah, title insurance. What is a clear title? All of that. And we had one of my favorites in the whole universe. We had Emmanuel Ebot with us from Stiles Law, and he's with us again this evening. Hello, hello.
Good evening. I'm glad to be back.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. I mean, last week was such a great show. And then at the end of it, I was like, no pressure, but will you come back next week?
Right on the spot. It was live for everybody to hear.
Yeah, exactly. My dad, actually. Hi, Dad. I know you're listening. He asked, well, what's the show going to be about tonight? And I was like, it was so good last week. We're going to do a repeat because it was a good show. So we got the 2 thumbs up from Frank Costa, a.k.a. Nanu.
He's our biggest fan.
He is our biggest fan, as well as Melissa's mother. And then we also have Emmanuel, do you want to do the honors and introduce our other guest that we have and let everybody know what her relationship is to you at Stiles Law?
Why, yes. Well, thank you. Obviously last week was a great show. As you mentioned, there was a lot of interaction, and it would be, I wouldn't want to take too much credit because the brains behind the operation is actually Denise Chetwynde. She's our transaction coordinator at Stiles Law. She basically has her hand in every single transaction and has a particular expertise in title issues and title resolution issues, which is why the topic that we talked about last week and what we're going to talk about some more today, it's great that she's on because she can give some real world stories about title issues and how they can disrupt a real estate closing or refinance and the struggle it takes to get these resolved and why it's so important to kind of prepare ahead of time so that we're not at closing with issues. So Denise Chetwynde, everyone.
Yay, Denise. And
Hi.
yes, we sort of did give you a little pressure. So thank you so much, Denise, for joining us tonight. I know this is a little bit out of your comfort level, but honestly,
We'll make it fun.
you're just sitting at the round
out of my
table with
comfort
us. You're just sitting at the round table with us. There's
I know,
nobody else
I know.
listening.
Nobody I'd rather be sitting at the round table with.
Well, perfect. And it's interesting because I'm not sure about the dynamics, but I just feel like Emmanuel and Denise are just there for us because they always answer. They always respond.
I
was
feel like
wow.
you personally work with us only. Like
I know.
I don't even know who I'm talking to or who I'm always referring Emmanuel and Denise. Emmanuel and Denise.
Yes.
It's just
And how is that the setup there? So Denise, you work at Stiles Law. So of course, Mark Stiles over in Marshfield. Do you work specifically, like, do you two just team up and like, does every attorney have like their own teammate or do you Emmanuel have to share you?
I am the teammate to all the attorneys. I'm there to support all the attorneys in all the transactions that come in. And
Wow.
specifically on the sales side is I'll take it from when we receive the offer all the way to closing. On purchases and refinances, those will go over to the other closers that are in the back room.
interesting.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, she must be busy.
Very busy, I would presume. How you keep it straight and like make sure I'm getting you the stuff that I need to get you sometimes on time. I'm like, oh, good reminder. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Denise.
Yep.
Yeah.
They do give us little credits we try to
so
keep it
often.
organized for them a little bit too. So, but as I said last week, Denise, and I think that you were listening, I don't know if you were on Facebook or if you were listening on WATD, we really do appreciate everything that you do. And what I love about us being on Zoom is I can look you right there, zero in on your eyes and let you know how much I appreciate you. And Emmanuel, Emmanuel and I have conversations throughout the week occasionally anyways. And honestly, our team would not be as successful or as credible without your team. So thank you so much to Emmanuel and Denise from Stiles Law. I appreciate you and all you do for us and all the other Boston Connect agents as well. So that's my little spiel.
I feel like Emmanuel's blushing a little bit.
But just to get back, I think again, I know I can speak for Denise, but we really enjoy working with your team. The dedication to your clients, the attention to detail is really second to none in the industry. So the reason why you three are successful and your agents are successful as they are is your leadership kind of permeates through your organization. So I know I speak for Denise. We're always happy when we're working with you because we know that you've been prepared, you've prepared your clients, and we're on the right track to get to where we need to be. So
Absolutely. You guys make my job easy.
Well, that is good to hear. And if
Mutual.
any of our agents here at Boston Connect mess up, you just give me a ring-a-ling, okay? We'll make sure that doesn't happen. No, but again, it's really all about, creating teams and, we keep in mind always the focus is the client. And that's why we say we take a holistic approach to this and we're no good without them and their referrals to us. So to all of our clients out there listening, thank you so much. Mel, do you want to sort of take over where I know you were just getting us busy all over Facebook? Want to give everybody
Getting us busy.
Yeah, getting us busy.
Getting us busy.
Getting us busy.
Yeah, we are live on Facebook, so make sure you like our page, McNamara Broker Team, and then we have our little snippets. We have fun on Instagram, okay? So follow us on Instagram too. So it's
I have a lot
McNamara
of fun on
Broker Team.
Instagram.
But if you have any questions for us or even want to tell some stories about, some of the topics that we're talking about tonight, be sure to find us. A lot of people were texting Sharon last week.
Yeah.
So Sharon, you want to give your phone number again?
Sure. I mean, Tom Brady did it. I might as well. So
Tom Brady texted you?
no. Tom Brady gave out his phone number. So I told Rob and Lisa this morning, hey, if Tom Brady can do it, so can I. And I did it first, Tom. He got that idea from me.
Sharon McNamara.
Because I gave my cell phone out. So my cell phone number is 781-294-4848. Again, 781-294-4848. If you have any questions, tonight is the night that we have legal professionals with us. We are talking about title and the importance of it. And one of the things that I really wanted to get to last week was like what goes wrong, and not so much like to say, hey, I love horror stories. I like to hear how you got them fixed, and the importance of having title insurance. You can also call the studio. Ben is in studio, 781-837-4900. You can ask any questions again that you want to ask us, even if you just want to say hello. We had to bribe people a couple of weeks ago, but hey, we did.
It worked.
It worked. We got a caller. So Mel, you want to take us from here?
Yeah. So this is going to be part 2 of, is your home covered? So why don't we do like a little bit of a recap for anybody who missed last week's show? But if you do want to listen to that show, you can go to talkrealestateroundtable.com. But why don't we start with title insurance? So just sort of run down with the basics, what title insurance is, what is the importance of it? Have you or any of your clients really have to use it? Who wants to go first?
Emmanuel.
Thanks. So to recap last week, the title insurance is essentially what it says. It's insurance that covers the title defects or title claims against your house. So in the same way that homeowners insurance insures over an actual casualty, a fire or a lightning strike, flood insurance insures over flooding. Title insurance is the same way. It insures over someone making a claim to your property. And the reason why it's important is the due diligence that usually takes place when you're buying property. It's a 50-year title search. So, and 50 years might seem like a long time, but again, when you think about it, that's 1971. So anything before 1971 is really, we don't know, where it's not viewable in your title search. So to make sure that there's nothing from before then that might affect your title, that's where title insurance comes in. So that's the reason we have it, in a nutshell, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And the difference between the title insurance when you have your own policy and the bank, because I don't want people to get confused by that. I think that that's important to sort of reiterate as well. If you could just give a little snippet about the differences so people know they should have it.
Yeah, so that comes up every time we do a transaction. Why does a buyer have to get 2 types of insurance? Why can't I just use the lenders? So it's essentially 2 separate, it's the same insurance risk, but it's 2 different insured. So anytime you're getting a loan from a bank, the bank wants to make sure that you're getting that they're covered. So that loan policy is for them. It doesn't cover you if there's a title claim. So you actually have to purchase your own policy. So it looks like you're buying 2 policies, but one is actually for the bank that the bank's making you pay for at the closing, and the other one is for you. So, please don't think that just because you're getting the lender policy that it in any way covers you. It only covers the bank in the event of a foreclosure. So.
Perfect. What do we want to get into next, Mel?
Oh, sorry. I'm just reading a question from somebody, but
okay.
Did you have something else to ask?
Oh, no, I'm like ready to get into it.
I know. I want horror stories. Give me the damn horror stories. But we have a question from somebody.
Yeah, but I haven't read it yet. So why don't we go on to clear title? So why don't we recap that part? So what is, what does it mean to have clear title when you're selling a property? Did you have something to say?
I just wanted to say something that I learned last week that I thought was great. And this is, Mary, how I always say, like, we're better off to be proactive than reactive. Mm-hmm. And I know Mark Stiles says that in his commercial on WATD, but he totally stole that from me because I'm letting you know I said
it's
it.
Symbiotic.
Yes.
Okay? Symbiotic.
But that is the truth. And one of the things that I thought that you said last week that I didn't realize is when you're the listing agent, when you're the attorney for the seller, that you're not doing that title search, which really doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't, but I guess there's a reason for it. But the buyer's attorney is generally doing it, and they're not doing it until later because they want to make sure that the transaction is staying together before they, I guess, would you send a runner or something to go flip through all those books down in Plymouth? I don't even know.
I'm sure there's a lot of back end things that happen. Maybe there's some costs associated.
That's all them. That's all them, though.
That has nothing to do with
you. Get that. We'll do the open houses. You do that. But I was really interested to hear, Denise, that you actually do like a mini search for all of our sellers beforehand. Well, hey, hooray. That's awesome.
Exactly.
That's something good for us to know, because I'm going to put that in when I tell people why they need an attorney, that's something great to know. You're getting ahead of it.
That's not extra. That's part of the fee. And we'll go back to the current owner and the owner prior so that we can get ahead of any title issues that may or may not arise.
That's so
And
smart. And
it's
such an
been
added
very,
bonus.
very beneficial. I actually just got a discharge today for a closing on Friday, and I still don't have the title exam from the buyer's attorney yet.
Oh,
So
We're closing on Friday.
yeah, which
that's
is
crazy.
yeah.
So that would be interesting. And it's not really veering off topic, but explain what that means. So you said you just got a discharge and
So
you haven't gotten the title exam back, and we have a closing on Friday. So what does that realistically mean for a seller? So I'm assuming it's a seller, right?
So if there is any outstanding mortgages on title that show up in the title exam and the owner is like, no, I paid that off back in, 1994. And, it's still showing as open on title. You have to track down what's called a discharge of mortgage. And that's basically a piece of paper that the mortgage holder at the time, the record title holder of the mortgage, will sign saying, yep, we've been paid in full. The lien's been satisfied. We hereby discharge it from the record title. And if you don't have that document recorded at the Registry of Deeds, it still looks like you have that mortgage open and it's still showing as a lien on your property. So like Sharon just said that she found out, we do, a quick title search for our sellers. And this particular one, there was this mortgage. And when I contacted the client, she was like, nope, that's been paid off. I only have one mortgage. And I'm like, well, 2 are showing up on title. So I need to do some digging.
This is just amazing to me. And I'm going to it's blowing my mind, because in reality, if you still haven't, so say you never did that. So you never did your mini title search up front and you have a closing on Friday. It's now Tuesday. You haven't gotten the title search back. During that title search, I'm sure they're going to find that there's an undischarged mortgage or an unrecorded mortgage. What? Not unrecorded. A discharge.
Undischarged, yeah.
And then they're going to be hunting it down, because I'm sure you did this well ahead of time and you just got it yesterday or today.
Yes. So
that house would not be closing on Friday.
There are different offices, obviously, who are better at, getting things to you sooner rather than later. That, some things fall through the cracks, and that's why it's good that we do this. And
that's huge. My mind is blown. Yeah. My mind is blown.
Yeah, I know. Well, Denise, you just tell me who those attorneys are on the other side. I'll get a whip.
No.
I'm kidding. But,
I'll get a whip.
Do they need a gentle reminder? Because it does not make sense to me. And I understand you want to say if it isn't going to go all the way through, you want to wait until the end. But I don't know, not 2 days before.
Their title examiner may not have gotten to it, or it may have fallen through the cracks on that end. A few days before closing is atypical.
Yeah.
That can be so impactful to, let's take the worst case scenario if we're talking horror stories. Say that this one transaction is a domino for 3 other transactions, which happens very, very often, especially in the market that we're in. So if transaction A doesn't close because the title examiner or the title exam hasn't come back, then we have transaction B and C, that those are potentially 3 families that are displaced, maybe only for a week. Maybe it only takes a couple of days.
Yeah, but
that's expensive.
It is expensive. You have to think about moving costs and hotels. We had to do that recently, remember?
We did, yeah.
Oh, P.S. Somebody forgot to tell the other side. The buyer asked for an earlier closing date on a Friday. We said, sure. And no one told the loan officer. How does that happen?
It's kind of integral, but whatever.
Yeah, you guys were on that. I think, Emmanuel, you remember. I won't say the exact address, Wampatuck Street in Hingham. It's not the exact address, but it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there we are. What do you mean nobody told him? You asked us for this, and we said yes. And then my client's moving truck is going down the street, and we're not closing. So we ended up paying for the hotel for them that weekend. We paid for a hotel,
dinner, right?
And dinner, anything and everything that we could do, because it wasn't our fault, but I didn't want them to be their last experience. Who's that caller?
It doesn't have anything to do with title, but somebody wants to know if a person buys a house and they plan on flipping it and then selling it, but halfway through they discovered that there's a well. that goes 30 feet in backyard that has to be addressed before they can resell. And they've gotten a quote. I'm assuming that this is happening in real life. And they've gotten a quote for $10,000. Is that something they should have been told by the previous owner?
Is the fact that there is a well in the backyard that needs repair?
It's probably a
disposable
well like
item.
Lassie fell into. Oh, like what was his name? Timmy
fell into the well.
Timmy, did you fall into the well? I think it was a well like that, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to get more details on this.
Because they probably have to collapse it and fill it. I don't know. Emmanuel, what are your thoughts on that? I guess there's a lot of questions.
Sure. Yeah. So it seems like, again, without giving legal advice over the radio,
yes,
someone bought a piece of property, was not aware of a potential defect, closed, and then only found out about that defect after they've owned it and they're renovating it. So as a general matter, once you buy a piece of property, it's yours. There really aren't too many warranties, attachment that the previous owner has to a current owner once it's sold. Because as a buyer, you typically have an opportunity to do inspections on the property, bring your own expert and see what needs to be done. So as long as you've been given that chance and there wasn't any fraud involved or anything like that, generally speaking, that's not something that is actionable. But again, not to give legal advice, but we'd want to know the specifics of the transaction, what was represented, what wasn't, to see whether
was it listed with an agent? Because I think that would be important too, because we have to disclose. And there's also that my favorite Latin caveat emptor.
I was literally
caveat.
I feel like I dreamt about that for this show today. I was dreaming about it.
It was on my broker's exam. Buyer beware. And we hate to be that way, but if you're a listing agent and you're not aware of it, then you just don't know. So I wonder if he bought it as a flip, did he buy it through a bank? Did he say? Can he call?
It's my mom asking for somebody else. I'm trying to get the details, but whatever. Let's move on. So are there any other recaps from last week that we want to talk about clear title and mortgage discharge before we move on?
I think we hit them all.
We hit them all.
Okay. Let's get into the meat.
Yeah, let's.
Well, Mary, what's the meat to you?
I want some horror stories.
So I think a couple of things that we didn't talk about. I think maybe some of the most common. We talked about the most common title issue kind of being the undischarged mortgage, probably more so than anything. But then we have encumbrances on, my best reference for an encumbrance would be like a shed on somebody else's yard or across the property line, things like that.
Well, here's a good example from one of our agents, what happened this year with a brand new agent, first transaction that was in Bridgewater. But somebody did ask a question. They wanted to know how much it was, but it's just Mark. So I'll fill him in later on that. And we have it, so don't worry, Mark. But can you explain, Emmanuel, that situation that we had with one of the agents from Boston Connect with everybody's land moved or something?
Oh, yeah. So that.
Wait until you hear this one.
Yeah. So this it's not common. But we get, since we're the attorneys, we do this every day. We get this situation more than you would think we do. So essentially what happened is this area, this subdivision was subdivided many years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And the surveyor who was hired 50 years ago just made a mistake when he was plotting the boundaries of the property. So 50 years ago, when they did the each lot and the homes were built based on that erroneous plan, it turns out each house was actually half on the neighbor's lot. And this wasn't discovered until, I think it was 2013-ish, around there. And so when that happens, it's not just one house's issue. It's literally everybody on that block has an encroachment. An encroachment is when you have a structure, whether it's a house or a shed or a pool or a fence, that's not completely on your lot. You're encroaching onto the neighboring lot. So that takes some heavy lifting. Fortunately, the way to fix it is you basically have to get together with all your neighbors get a new plan done that accurately shows where the lot lines begin and end, and you can either grant easements to each other. Again, I'm getting into the weeds here, but it's essentially just allowing each owner to continue using those encroachments the way they are, kind of like a, no harm, no foul type of thing. Or you basically just essentially do a subdivision and grants the encroached area back to the owner that it needs to be. So fortunately for this client, they purchased owner's title insurance when they bought it, and then the area was discovered after they already owned it. So that title insurance company was able to work with the neighbors and resolved it. I think it took about 2 or 3 years to fully resolve it, each side granting easements to each other, so that when this client was looking to sell, it was merely a sense of just explaining this issue to prospective buyers. Again, when they hear about it, like, what? My house is half on the neighbor's lot? That's freaky. But once we explained it to them, and I credit your agent for being, proactive, we had a plan in place before we even had any buyer to be fully explained. We had all the plans. We were able to explain what happened, what we did, and why it's not really an issue now because it's been resolved by the title insurance. So with that, your agent was able to get a buyer, and they closed without a hitch because of that. So.
And I'd like to give him a little shout out too, because I went to his open house, and he's in our mentoring program, which is, we basically hold the hand of our agents with Laurie Rini, who's our empowerment team leader here. And it was interesting to see him there, and he had papers in his hand, and he was like showing every single buyer outside, what was going on. And then I was like, what is going on? And then I have my fun little app, and I looked at it, and I was like, yeah. So I said to Laurie, his first phone call will be to Emmanuel on Monday. Okay. So I said, sure. I said, I don't know, Laurie, who you who you refer them to. I said, I want him to call Emmanuel tomorrow. So he did. But we ended up giving him the Shining Star Award, right?
Yeah. He has only been with us maybe 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
He's already helped 2 wonderful buyers and sellers, and he's onto his 3rd, and he's just doing amazing. And I see everyone's paperwork, and he's like the best. Everything is perfect, but that's just so he's very militant. So, he's a Marine, and he does everything the way that it's supposed to be. And so we gave him Shining Star because he really has been a star here.
Is it going to be weird, if you ask him for some blood, and then we just put a little of that blood into every one of the other agents, so all the paperwork is always correct?
Yeah, I think that might be a little weird. I had never thought of that.
We want to
What analogy is that?
I want to clone him
from hair.
I want to clone him
from his head.
Right. Well, he's not a lamb. I mean, I just want to, I want to clone him.
We want your blood, Christopher Ryan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he kudos to him and to your team, and you guys sort of did all that seamlessly, and that he got multiple offers on that property, and it was great.
It was good. Denise, let me ask you a question. So when we're talking about, you said, you go back to buy to sellers to do your little search.
Mm-hmm.
How does, when you're talking about a title examiner, is that somebody who's in-house? Are they just hey, when I grow up, I want to be a title examiner? Who are these people? Are they down at the registry of deeds? Because when you go down there and do a tour, you do see all these people flipping through books.
Yeah.
Right?
There are definitely title examiners who camp out at the registry all day long, pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them do it online. We have our go-to title examiners that we use.
But what do they do? So that you just you're just looking up the address? What are you looking for? I wouldn't even know what to look for.
Yep. You're looking up the names, the addresses, everything, everything will come up associated or indexed for that property. And if the registry has indexed it correctly, our title examiners are good and know to go beyond that and look, if you have a name like McNamara, you're going to put it in MC and you're going to put it in MAC and see what comes up.
So I guess what other than the discharge stuff? So you're looking and you say, this loan wasn't discharged yet. Okay. So what are some other things that come up though? Like if you're going back to 1971, but think about some of the antique houses when we have John Buckley on with us, right? And he always has an example of like, you know, from the tree stump, the burnt down tree stump over to the whatever, you know, but like, what are some of the other things that would be a red flag that something isn't right?
You're looking for any lien that has been put on that property. So federal tax lien, mechanics lien, I think Emmanuel talked about last week. You know, if you had work done on the property and you didn't pay the contractor, they would file a mechanics lien against your property so that they would be paid when the property sold. Any mortgages, equity lines. If you put solar panels on, you're going to have a UCC financing statement, which will need to be terminated when you sell. There's all kinds of fun stuff that you look for.
Perfect.
So another thing that we scrutinize are probates, divorce records, bankruptcies. So when the examiner, he basically just it's like he's pulling a thread. He just keeps going back from one owner to the next. He'll search their names and find anything that pops up in any of those records, whether it's the bankruptcy records or the divorce records. And then if everything looks good, then he goes back to the next owner, and he just goes back until he gets to the 50 years with everything that he's found. And then he reports back to us all the things that he's found on each of those owners. And then that's kind of where we then say, okay, these are the things that are okay. And then these are the things that we actually have to clear.
It's like being a detective.
Oh, you would be good at that.
This sounds so much fun. I kind of want to be good.
I want to grow up and be stories about all of the people behind it. Should fall in love with them all. But I know, like, when we're at the, you know, when we used to go pre-COVID, we go to the registry of deeds and you would record it. But aren't you doing one final check right then and there too, Emmanuel, just to make sure that nobody threw on?
Yes. So that, as you know, I as a young attorney growing up, I used to hear horror stories about that, because what you're just describing is we do a title exam, or I should say the buyer's attorney, the bank attorney will do a title exam about usually 2 to 3 weeks before the closing. And really that exam is up until that point. But if the closing is 2 weeks later, something could go on record between the time the exam is done and the closing. So what you're supposed to do is, if you're a closing attorney, if you're at the registry of deeds, again, pre-COVID, right before you go to the counter to give the documents, you actually have to go on the computer and do a last second search of the name, just to make sure nothing has gone on. And the second you leave that computer, you're supposed to make a beeline to the counter and file your documents.
It's like, how quick can you do it?
I actually have a question. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I might lose my thought. So I'm just thinking, like, how fast, like, once somebody puts a lien, so let's say, like, you know, a seller owes me money, I did work, I'm going to put a lien on it. How instantaneous is it that, like, it'll show up? Because I'm just thinking, what if somebody owes you money, you drive by, you see that they have a for sale sign in front of their house and say, oh my God, like, I better throw a lien on this thing before, you know, they move away and I never get my money. Like, how instantaneous is it once, like, the lien is put on?
Right away. So if that person,
I just give people ideas. Sorry.
Oh my God, we have all of these liens. Sorry, guys.
So if driving by the house, you see it, you're like, oh, I got to put this lien on. You keep driving to the registry of deeds and you file that lien. Then it's apparent right away. So if I'm 5 minutes later, if I do a search on my computer, I'll be able to see that you've placed a lien. Again, the contractor's liens that we talked about, there's obviously some steps you have to go through. People can't go slapping liens.
Yeah, I would think that, like, you have to prove that they owe you money to somebody.
But
you owe me. If somebody owes me money, I'm driving by their house every day, making sure they're not selling it.
That's so funny. So give us an example. Give us some examples.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. Has it? Yeah.
That's one thing, it has. And we've seen it with new construction where, again,
no, don't tell me that. Okay, continue. Tell me.
not any of your clients, right? None of your clients. So with new construction, the developer obviously was, just not in the best financial situation, was hoping to close this transaction to kind of pay off a lot of his debts. And we could get a sense of that as we were leading up to closing. just based on all the bills that he was sending us to pay from his proceeds. So at the closing, I mean, you could tell he was anxious to get it on record so we could disperse. As we were doing the rundown, a few of his subcontractors had filed liens that morning. And because of that, we can't proceed, because now we have to clear those liens before we can proceed. And that's why it's important. I mean, there's some attorneys who don't take that step. When I first started, there are some registries that don't keep records as of that day. So that used to be an issue of concern where liens put the day of closing could impact the buyer, which was even more reason why you would get title insurance. But it has happened. We've had tax liens filed the morning of closing, child support liens filed.
I thought that too. Yeah, child support would be a good one. Get them. But my question is get them. But my question is, now that Mary blew it for me, no, my question is, it isn't something like it just comes off the top of the proceeds. You have to go through a whole process.
Well, you have to determine you have to determine what it is, first of all, whether the seller is able to pay it, because that's not always the case. Sometimes
I was going to say, what do you do if they can't?
I do have a question. Oh, that's a 10-minute bill, not 5 minutes. Made me nervous. I have a question from Stephanie Anderson from Valrico, Florida. Wants to know how much, is there like a monetary value on a lien? Like
a maximum?
Is there like a minimum in order to put a lien on a property, or maybe a maximum?
No. So there isn't a minimum.
You owe me $1, I can put a lien on your property? So
the mechanics liens, the contractors liens that we talked about, that's for, it's for a contractor who did work on the property, roofer, and then the homeowner stepped in. So the value of the work you can put the lien on. But the other types of liens we're talking about, whether it's a IRS tax lien, or it could be for $2. There's no minimum. It just means that if you've gone to court and proved that someone owes you money and the judge approves a judgment or a lien, it could be for any amount. We see a lot of, I shouldn't say we see a lot of, when you do see liens, they tend to be like credit card type liens. So not necessarily astronomical numbers, but it prevents the transaction from moving forward until those have been addressed.
So towns must do that, right? So if people owe money on taxes, so they must put a lien on it?
I don't think so.
That's another thing that we look at, and Denise can, dealing with the towns with that is also can be tricky depending on how far they are in the process of, because it's not always automatic. They have to calculate interest that's accrued, and so we see that a lot. So like the mortgages, these tax takings we deal with them all the time.
Yes, we want to have Denise talk because, right, Denise, just so you know, when Mark is on with Emmanuel doesn't get to talk. So right now, Emmanuel's on with you and you're not getting to talk. So he's pulling a Mark.
That's okay. Like I told Mary, I like to be behind the scenes.
I know you do, but you do so much good work for us that we want you to have an opportunity to talk. So,
have you seen anything with regard to like what Emmanuel's talking about? Like, so tax lien wise, like how long is something? I guess, we kind of talked about it. It depends on the seller's ability to be able to pay those things. But say they can't pay them. What is the resolution? Is there a resolution, or is everything dead in the water? Like what happens?
So if there aren't enough proceeds after, the mortgage is paid off and there is a tax taking on the property, then we have to do some negotiating and see if the town will take less, or
how often does that happen? I'm sure never.
I can't remember a transaction. Can you, Emmanuel?
No.
I mean, there have been some that have come down to like net proceeds to the seller, $3,000 or something. But
oh wow,
yeah. But
so, sorry,
I don't know if we covered this, but like, what is the process of like finding out like what the seller owes like the town, like whether it be like they have like an outstanding water bill that's like insane, or they haven't paid the trash bill in years, or like what is that sort of process?
Yeah, that's a common question that we actually get, and we kind of explain, but I'll let Denise take it.
So the seller obviously should know if they haven't paid their water or trash.
You would think,
right? You would think.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Oh, I'm just not getting my bills anymore. What do you mean?
Right. Well, yeah, we've had someone say that. So yeah, you contact the town. It's just like when you guys order the final water reading. that final water reading comes over, and instead of it being the normal, 150, it's 10,500. We have to calculate for that. We have to make sure that it's paid out of the proceeds.
So that's what happens with the MLC. So the municipal lien certificate, you guys are going in, you're ordering that, and that's going to show you if there's any tax liens or with the town specifically. So nothing that's been recorded at the registry, but with the town, the MLC will show anything on that, right?
Yes, it'll show any outstanding utility. It may not be water. Water's usually separate unless there's a water lien. Like you said, if it hadn't been paid for years, most likely the town will put a water lien. Mm-hmm. And then any outstanding taxes that haven't been paid, all of that will be on the municipal lien certificate because the town wants to be paid.
Yeah, I was going to say the town's not negotiating for less. So then what? So now I'm just at this is just a recourse question, I guess. So that same scenario where, say, the seller's net proceeds aren't enough to cover the payback towards the tax lien, and you can't negotiate with the town, but they're like, okay, well. Or maybe they can, but they needed all of those proceeds to purchase another house, or they were putting a sizable down payment. Does the seller then have recourse to withdraw from the transaction and be like, hey guys, sorry, can't sell my house anymore. I have to stay.
I'm going to have Emmanuel answer the legalities of that.
I mean, there's so many repercussions, guys.
Right.
Yeah. So generally speaking, if a seller is not able to perform, then they can't perform. And that's a scenario where they can't convey the property. Again, this is if they, there's some closings where a seller has to bring money to closing in some cases. But if you're talking about a scenario where they just don't have the funds to pay what's owed, I mean, then the deal falls apart right there because the seller is unable to perform.
What if like in this market, a crazy buyer was like, I'll give you $10,000. I'll give you the money to pay the tax. And can that happen?
Yeah, so that's what Denise was mentioning, where it sometimes becomes negotiable because something like
I don't like that.
And this is in a perfect world, obviously. If a buyer is getting a loan from a bank, the bank can have the same. But perfect world, just buyer and seller, the parties can agree for either party to pay anything, really. So there is something that, like a tax lien, that the seller can't afford to pay, but the buyer really wants the house.
Yeah.
There's nothing preventing the buyer from saying, you know what, I'll pay for it as long as
I want the house. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I don't know if you said this while I was off air. We have a audio specialist here. My new friend Jeff is with us, so he's just making sure that thing is like all put together here for us. So did you talk about sometimes like betterments? Like sometimes that would happen. I have heard of that where people are like, oh, surprise, there's a betterment for the SOAR out front and the selling agent didn't know about it and it was never mentioned. So is that what we're talking about? Because I just jumped in and I don't know where the hell you were or where you're going.
There's a portion. It's all in the same realm.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys have some good? We only have 4 minutes left, if you can imagine that. And I know I just sort of took over again, but do you have give us a juicy one, like something that was like, wow, can you believe that this happened?
Like the one that you can't forget.
Yes.
No matter how hard you try, it haunts your dreams still to this day.
I don't know, Emmanuel.
Well, again, because these are our clients after all. We don't want to.
Yeah,
no names, no addresses.
You did a good job at the end. I mean, the story has a very good ending, I'm sure.
Sure. So we have been again. There was an issue where a husband and wife were getting divorced in the sale. They were selling it to our client, and the seller showed up to closing with a deed that wasn't really notarized. So we're like, no, we need a deed notarized. So the seller had to, so we said, we're like, no, go back and get it notarized. So he came back with it notarized. So we recorded, only to find out we get a call. Well, my client gets a call 3 weeks later saying that they got a call from a woman who claims that her name was forged and is entitled to. So that's, those are title defects that are not apparent. Right.
That notary needs their notary stamp taken away.
Again, I don't want to get into too many details, but forgery that was given to us. We have no way of knowing. We recorded the deed, conveyed the title to our client again, but fortunately he got title insurance because that insures over those types of issues. So,
yeah, but what happens? I mean, she didn't want to sell her house and it just got sold out from underneath her?
So again, we were fortunate in the case. It's not that she didn't want to sell, but she wanted to make sure she got the funds that she needed to, which is why she was holding out. So we were proactive. We reached out to the seller who did the forgery, let him know that is a crime in the conduct.
We let him know that was a crime.
That's not legal.
And
Slap on the hand.
Yeah, and we connected him with the ex-wife, and again, our concern was obviously with our client to make sure that he received good title. So we wanted to make sure that she, in fact, did sign a deed executed by a notary or witnessed by a notary to convey title to our client, and then they took it from there. I mean, I don't know whether the gentleman's in prison or not, but
he should be.
And that was a crime.
For next week's show.
But you know what? I think next quarter, I'd love to have you come back on because I think we should talk about, buying houses that have tenants in them and all that, because there's a lot of repercussions of that type of stuff. Just want to let you know, somebody asked me to notarize something. His father wasn't feeling well that day. And if he would mind if I just brought it to him already signed, his will. I was like, yeah, I'm good. So Emmanuel, Denise, thank you so much. How can everybody get in touch with you if they want to get some legal advice?
Emmanuel.
well, yeah, you can obviously, thanks for having us. You can call us at 781-319-1900. My email address is eebot@stiles-law.com, or you can swing by at our office at 892 Plain Street right there in Marshfield.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And if you didn't hear any of that, you can call us at Boston Connect, 781-826-8000. Have a great night, everybody.